Hello Enigma fans, January rounds off with at least one of the biggest games of the year so far, with plenty more interesting titles and small games alike, which may just be your cup of tea. All this and more in this edition of Indie Gaming this week. You know me, I love my pixel art titles, so Golden Force for Switch and PS4 did get my attention. It's an old school linear action platformer, but does have 4 playable characters, 2-player co-op support and great looking action, so think Metal Slug but melee and you get the idea. Not a full-blown beat 'em up, but the art looks awesome, making it a no-brainer. I also love my action roguelites, which made Sword of the Necromancer appeal to me. Other than the slick animated trailer, the gameplay portion looks good as well, where you wield the power of the Forbidden Blade, using it to resurrect slain enemies and to turn them to your side. The Necromancer is one of my favourite classes to play in games, going way back to Diablo 2, so to see a roguelite incorporate this mechanic is pretty neat. Unlike others in this genre, this will not be in early access, so you don't have an excuse not to check this out. One of the best looking games of the week is TOHU, a point-and-click adventure game that gives me vibes of something like Samorost, but with a wonderful hand-drawn art style which I'm very impressed by. The hook here is that you can toggle between the girl and her mechanical alter ego, using this duality to solve puzzles with the grand objective of repairing the secret engine, but for how great this looks, it gets a spot. Tycoon games are another favourite of mine, so Snowtopia Ski Resort Tycoon is of interest. There have not been many Tycoon games in this space, with entries usually going for things like theme parks and zoos, so it's a nice little entry which I hope is interesting. The different courses and ski lifts placement will be important, with the bells and whistles surrounding that, like the resort itself, being important as well. I guess it's still winter in some parts of the world, and with travel restricted, perhaps get your fix with this.
Alright. Your turn. What have you got for us?
Okay, so you've all probably heard of the Battle of Saya, but do you know what really happened? Outside an old sepulchre, the only sounds were the wind, the shifting grass, and a snarl. An autophage wearing the mask of a monk hummed and growled the mystery it had found. But then another sound. Footsteps. Minerva and a troop from the Sterling City stepped forth, spears ready. The monster grinned as it reached out with its maw and its mind, raising Minerva's comrades and summoning its own. But Minerva had hope. Her fists filled with light, she shouted, she charged, and...
Oh no, you've got it all wrong. The autophage wasn't like that. It had a big flowy mane and a giant mouth in its stomach, and the village hero was just a lowly squire. Shekmati found the beast at the heart of town, surrounded by common folk. But just as he attacked, an old devoted monk stopped him. "Don't worry," he said. "Look." And suddenly, the Ontophage pulled a fiddle from his fur and started to play, the villagers joining in song and dance as...
Well, I hope you're all ready, because there wasn't an Ontophage or a knight at all. It was Bibu Bumo and Maul. No, it was Rayla Redgale in the Chimera. Wait, no. Oh, it was Ire and the Muse. Yeah, this whole thing was Kali's story that she called in this huge dragon beetle, and then she blasted Kali with lightning, and it was awesome. But since Kali was getting beaten so bad, she got all the Grail witnesses to shoot the dragon beetle into space. But then Ire was like, "Ha ha ha, you fool," and started glowing like the sun before she exploded everything in the forest. But then a bunch of super smart Grail made this big boat for Kali with a big spooky Ire piloting it. And in the boat was another boat. And inside that was a third boat. And in the third boat was a fourth boat. And it was on fire!
So what about you? What's your story then?
There's something insidious about the collectible card game which is nothing new, going back to physical cards, booster packs and such, with Magic the Gathering, Pokemon and even baseball cards, with it translating into modern digital forms like Magic the Gathering Arena and Hearthstone, which I cannot get into due to the business model, which is where Chroma, Bloom and Blight comes in. It touts itself as a completely free-to-play title, with nothing gameplay related ever being locked behind any paywall, although it does offer cosmetic microtransactions and cosmetics-only battle passes. The "it's just cosmetic" argument is not a great one, but perhaps can be forgiven for a deck building game, so who knows, this might be the way forward for free-to-play games in this genre, hopefully not being too exploitative, but if you're looking for an alternative, this may be it.
It all starts with a dead girl. A forest. The moon. Scent of pines. And then the gunshot. Every story has two sides. A regular, rational one, but also a darker and deeper truth.
Alright, so I'm bringing back bigger games, at least for this week, which covers titles by mid-sized and not-so-indie teams, with the medium being of interest. This wowed at Microsoft presentations, being a gorgeous-looking horror game with an interesting dual reality setup, where the power of current-gen consoles and PCs allow for two different environments to be rendered simultaneously, with a single protagonist shared between the two. Horror is a relatively niche genre, so I've put it on, coming to us from Bloober Team, makers of Layers of Fear, who you might not know is actually a 100+ person studio.
This place.
I also previewed Gods Will Fall when looking at upcoming games of the month, being an action-adventure title where you set out to kill some gods. Of course, that means the boss designs are the highlight, looking good from what I've seen in trailers, where a clan of 8 Celtic warriors must rise to the occasion to free humanity from their tyranny. Developer Clever Beans used to be an exclusive Sony second-party studio, and this game did get picked up by Deep Silver and has pre-order bonuses and a premium edition with 3 new gods and 2 new warrior types, so certainly has the hallmarks of a bigger game. Not too pleased with this myself, but it looks okay and might be of interest. We kick off smaller games this week with Blue Flame, an action-adventure title where you play as the last pyromancer in a medieval fantasy world. Looks alright visually, so I do hope that the gameplay is fun, with free post-launch content planned from this solo developer.
Then I said, how'd you like that embassing?
Yeah, I just wish there had been a citizen that could have done my pointing for me.
Oh, I think we've started.
Oh, whoops. Ahem. My fellow citizens of Earth, years ago we embarked on a journey together across our planet. We encountered bizarre wildlife, mutant killer robot things, and even some diabolical protesters.
Citizens Unite Earth Cross Space is an interesting entry, since from what I gather, it's a 2-in-1 package of the Earthbound-like RPGs, Citizens of Earth and Citizens of Space, but rather than being a simple bundle, the developers have actually done the work to add additional elements, truly merging the two titles together. You're able to recruit up to 88 citizens to save Earth in both time periods, time travelling back and forth with new content and a true ending. So it's very interesting structurally, and I would love to see more developers get in on this.
But with the help of my loyal citizens, we accomplished some amazing things.
Remember that time I fought that giant cookie monster?
Of course. And then there was that time I had to duke it out in the ring with the galaxy's greatest wrestler.
Oh, but do you remember that time the cronies invaded both our timelines and started messing with history?
Wait, what?
That's right. We've infiltrated the timeline of Citizens of Earth and Citizens of Space. We're gonna put a stop to these so-called political heroes before they even get started.
Someone is changing our stories?
From the future.
From the past?
What are we going to do to stop these weirdos?
We need to team up to get to the bottom of this.
Now that's a plan.
Between my ambassing and your, well, whatever it is you do, we'll be unstoppable. With a new group of enemies messing things up, there's certain to be some new twists and turns from start to finish.
In that case, we'll definitely need some new help.
And maybe recruit some old friends, too. Finally, our stories are combining into one epic tale.
I can't wait to see the future.
And I can't wait to see the past. Together, we can do it. Citizens Unite! This'll be one for the history books.
Do you still have books in the future? Wait, do we still have books in my time?
Colossus Down is a pretty awesome beat-em-up title, where I'll elaborate more soon enough, but this gets a Switch port after launching on Steam last month. An awesome arena shooter in the vein of Devil Daggers is CROSSBOW Bloodnight, and this too gets a Switch port this week. I've been aware of Deep Enigma for a little while but was never sold on it, but it's a sci-fi pixel art Metroidvania, so what's not to love? "320 rooms, 10 areas and 328 upgrades and hidden items are what the developers put in the description, so who knows, it might just turn out to be a hidden gem." Yes, zombie games have been done to death, but I like the hand-drawn art of Don't Get Bit, combined with the hex grid, turn-based tactics elements.
If I can just make it to the farmhouse, I might actually survive this thing. Which would be kind of a miracle considering, well, everything. The good news these days is that if there's anyone you didn't like, they're probably not around to bother you anymore. The bad news is that if they do bother you, you might end up as one of them. The apocalypse crying crazies were right all along, and isn't that a depressing thing to say out loud? The undead really do want your brains. And there's not just regular old shuffling zombies out here. I've seen things that would want to make you climb back into bed and call it a night. Hell, that's what I want to do. Thank God I'm not going at it alone anymore. Dogs actually do make everything better. Neither of us is a force of nature, but we're both smart. And that seems to be enough to keep us pushing through. We'll see if it can actually get us to the end of this road.
Must have clocked us last night.
Tina, I do not think they were here to arrest us for loitering.
ENCODYA is quite the fascinating adventure game entry coming to us from an Estonian developer who primarily deals with animation, with this being one of, if not their first foray into games. The art style looks neat, with the two protagonists set up of a tiny girl and a giant clumsy robot being a little Ghibli-like, set in New Berlin with corporations in control. Maybe a little bit of an Iron Giant vibe as well, but it looks good, so I'm interested in this.
Yes!
Will give us all we need. Incompetent! The whole lot of you!
to see this mission through.
It's done.
History is a science. It's the reconstruction of the past. I'm an archaeologist. I dig stuff up.
Developer Inco is known for their narrative titles, with Heaven's Vault being an excellent example, and it gets a Switch port this week.
Every moon I sail to reveals a new path to explore. And every new discovery can change the story entirely. History belongs to everyone. It's how we know who we are. But will the story I put together be the truth?
Lost Caves is a fun little collectathon platformer about delving into said caves and searching for treasure. It has a simple look, but I think it adds to the charm, reminding me of games like Commander Keen from the 1990s. Magellania is a turn-based tactics title set in outer space where the character portraits are just a delight. Always keen on this genre, and for more, do click on the link up there. The original Monstrum was a neat, procedurally generated horror title where you're on board a derelict ship and had to escape, all while one of 3 monsters was hunting you down, and was pretty well received, so its sequel got my attention. This time, rather than coding AI, the developer has turned it into an asymmetric multiplayer game where one player controls the monster and the rest are prisoners who need to escape. As with entries in this space, this game will live or die by the player population, so I do wish them all the luck. If you love trains, listen up. NIMBY Rails is a minimalistic one of these, reminding me a little bit of Mini Metro, but less puzzle game and more Tycoon. it allows you to build railway lines in cities all over the world, having some pleasant, simple visuals as well, with hopefully enough strategic depth. Always love monster taming games, so Nuumonsters looks promising, although it does seem to be relatively early on as of right now. Pathfinder 08 is an exploration platformer that looks alright, although it does seem to be a smaller game. I quite liked Project Starship X from last year, and this roguelite shoot 'em up gets console ports this week. The Among Us-like Project Winter comes to Xbox Game Pass this week, and is a more polished version of the deception sim that took over the world, with a different theme and arguably better visuals, so a no-brainer to check out if you have the service. Sarawak is a narrative mystery title where you're trying to solve the mysterious death of a university professor with some gorgeous art that makes it seem neat. Saving Mr. Sparkles is a momentum-based platformer that looks like it will require some skill, although I don't think physics works like that, but it could be a neat challenge if you like platformers. SOLAS 128 is a very interesting looking puzzle game where you're reconfiguring rhythmic pulses of light, with the timing element being interesting and gives the game a unique feel. I do love my puzzle games, but the level progression in this feeds into the starting up of an ancient machine, so seeing the big picture in this trailer did get my attention. The Pedestrian is a wonderful puzzle platformer from last year and gets PS4 and 5 versions this week. Wild Terra 2 New Lands is a sequel to Wild Terra Online from 2017 and is an MMORPG that looks neat, with some systems and gameplay that looks like RuneScape to me. Sure, the visuals are not the most impressive, having to cater to a wider range of PCs in order to get that player base, but if you're in the mood for one of these, do check it out. close off smaller games with the very weird Wobbledogs, a pet simulation of sorts, where these strange wobbly creatures do eventually turn into cocoons and evolve or mutate. So weird, and weird is good in my book, so certainly one to put on your watch list.
So, you're the new space cadets. Fantastic. What a jolly bunch. Your job is to cooperate to stack the blocks so they fit the outline. To make it easier, we've given you state-of-the-art technology, a robo-arm and a jetpack. Simple enough.
The co-op puzzle physics title, Bonkies, comes in at number 5, where you have to work together with other players to build structures. Physics and local multiplayer titles are a prime combination for all sorts of wacky fun, so this looks to carry on that legacy and looks pretty awesome to boot.
You can challenge yourself by building amazing constructions. Oh, I didn't know it could do that. Hold it, hold it. That must have hurt. I think we're getting there. Well done! See, you'll do just fine.
Of course, the pixel art of Disjunction drew me in, with some amazing cityscapes and backgrounds, but it then reveals itself to be a stealth action title, and as I've said before, this genre is difficult to come by, so certainly something of interest. It takes place in 2048 cyberpunk New York City, with 3 playable characters who have their stories intertwined. Full stealth or going loud is possible, with a so-called reactive story that changes according to your choices, so I'm curious to see if they will pull it off. Oulia made an impression when it was revealed last year during one of those events, with this action platformer title having a notable pixel art style, although some of you were not fans of the look. However, your character wields a legendary harpoon, which is definitely a cool weapon, and you have to fight your way through this country in order to get home. Action looks good, and if you want something other than a Metroidvania, this should be of interest. The roguelite narrative strategy title, Curious Expedition 2 makes it out of early access this week after about 6 months, having gorgeous art and impressive world building. It's all about exploration, where your group of adventurers journey to faraway lands to seek fame, fortune, and glory. Very well received so far and should only get better with the 1.0 release, although in a nice trend, this developer is promising future content updates beyond 1.0, so certainly support this indie dev. the no-brainer title has to be Cyber Shadow, being one of my most anticipated games of the year, and here it is at the end of the month. It's a 2D platformer which is not a Metroidvania, looking 8-bit excellent and very impressive. You're fighting your way through Mecha City in order to rescue the members of your ninja clan, unlocking new ninjutsu abilities as you battle on. Action looks silky smooth and slick, evoking titles like Ninja Gaiden, hopefully with a story that is compelling enough as well. It is being published by Yacht Club Games, makers of Shovel Knight, who did also help with the development, so I certainly have high hopes for this, taking the #1 spot. To see more of the big picture, check out these awesome videos, and I will see you after the jump.